there's so many things that can be rewarding when working with a client. I think what ultimately is the most rewarding is the things that they find rewarding. Because if I think something they did is really cool, but they're not that excited about it, like, well, who cares? But when they show up and they're like, hey, man, I got to tell you what happened this week. I got this new client. I realized I doubled my revenue. I had this conversation with my partner that I've been afraid to have, and it went really well. And you can feel the excitement within them. It's like bubbling.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Alex Terranova, a professional certified executive coach, Psych-K facilitator, and founder of the Alchemy of Men, where he helps high-performing leaders break free from burnout, self-doubt, and pressure to create lives rooted in fulfillment, clarity, and peace without sacrificing success. Known as the anti-excuses coach by Yahoo Finance, Alex brings over a decade of experience in coaching and personal transformation, having worked with hundreds of individuals and organizations to unlock their full potential. Through one-on-one coaching, Psych-K sessions, and retreats, and bold truth-telling, he guides clients to dissolve mental barriers, grow as conscious leaders, and live with purpose in both work and life. And it's a pleasure for me to have him today on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming, Alex. It's a pleasure for us to have you on. First of all, what inspired you to become a coach, then start your own coaching business?
Well, I was pretty miserable in my life. I was a director of operations and franchise operations for a restaurant group and hospitality group in New York City. And I was pretty unhappy, and I didn't even know about coaching, but I was unhappy and I was struggling in what to do with my life. I was in my early 30s, and I started to look for what was out there. And when I started to look for what was out there, my main draw was I wanted to be happy. You know, nobody's happy all the time, but I wanted to enjoy my life. And when I started to look around and going to networking groups to see what kind of opportunities there were for people, for myself, I started meeting coaches. And the first thing that I noticed when I was meeting them was that they were happy. At least I thought they were happy. And in actuality, I thought they were kind of full of it. I didn't really believe that they were happy because I sort of didn't believe that anyone was really happy. It seemed like, especially men, it's just work. We just got to grind and hustle, and who's really happy, especially living in New York City. But I started to meet these coaches over and over, and they all seemed to be happy and joyful and following their path and enjoying their life. And I eventually did a session with one. And in that one session, that 90 minutes, I was pretty kind of blown open. I realized that I was the problem in my life. It wasn't the government or my parents or my partner or my boss or my job, that I was the common denominator. And if I wanted my life to be different, I was going to have to be different. And so that first conversation with that coach inspired me to sign up for a really intensive year-long coaching program called Accomplishment Coaching that I still to this day think is the best and most rigorous program there is. Mm-hmm. I did that coaching program. And while I was in that coaching program, I was like, I want to do this. I didn't realize at the time I was just going into it for personal development. But very quickly in the first 90 days, I was like, I want to do this professionally, and I want to be able to help people like that coach helped me. So yeah, that's how I got here.
And so interesting, because you mentioned that kind of it blew you away within just 90 minutes, and then you went through the whole program. What about it? Is there a certain thing that you saw happening in you? Were there some sort of limiting beliefs that you initially had that you kind of broke? What happened? We don't have to get on the specifics of it, but highlight.
I mean, I don't remember the exact specifics. It was a decade ago, but I do remember. I can tell you some generalities. I remember I felt overall pretty upset in my life, pretty frustrated, pretty annoyed, angry at other people, angry at the system, angry at my job, angry at my boss. All those kind of me projecting outward anger at different things and thinking all these things were responsible for the problems I was having. Mm-hmm. and getting a very clear glimpse in that 90 minutes of none of these things are the problem. You're the problem. And being able to have to like take that, like, oh man, I'm the problem in my life. I'm the problem in my relationships. I'm the problem with my money. I'm the problem with and that visceral feeling of that sucks, but that's also good because I can change that, right? If my boss is the problem, I can't do much, right? If my parents are the problem, I can't do much. But if I'm the problem, yeah, it's an ego blow, but I can also then do something to change that so I don't have to get in my own way anymore. And I remember thinking really clearly that, whoa, if I'm my own obstacle, then I can move the obstacle out of the way and I can have the life that I want. That's way easier than trying to move everything else out of the way.
Absolutely. So right now, when it comes to working with your clients, and thinking about it, like the kind of what happened with you as well, what about it when going through the coaching journey with them? What about it do you find the most rewarding?
There's so many things that can be rewarding when working with a client. I think what ultimately is the most rewarding is the things that they find rewarding. Because if I think something they did is really cool, but they're not that excited about it, like, well, who cares? Mm-hmm. But when they show up and they're like, hey, man, I got to tell you what happened this week. I got this new client. I realized I doubled my revenue. I had this conversation with my partner that I've been afraid to have, and it went really well. And you can feel the excitement within them. It's like bubbling over. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like we get to share that joy together. I think that has to be the best part. Yeah, because otherwise it doesn't, if they're not excited about it and I am, that's kind of weird because it's their life that we're talking about.
Yeah. So basically when they get to kind of like feel some sort of a transformation is what you find rewarding when they get to kind of like shift.
When they shift, when they grow, when they feel like something that they've always done one way, they're doing another way. When they see a result that they've been wanting. I think also when they see behavior differences, like, you know, maybe they were reactive and now they had a situation where they saw themselves not being reactive and they weren't. A difficult situation at work or with their partner or with their kid, that normally they would act one way and this time they didn't act that way. And they're like really proud of themselves for that.
And they were aware of that as well.
Yeah.
So how would you describe, we talked in the intro that it's basically working with men, but how would you describe the ideal client profile beyond just men? Is there a certain industry? Are they of a certain common goal? How would you describe that ideal client profile? If they're listening as well.
Yeah, you know, I really started working with mostly men because I started the Alchemy of Men retreats, which is men's retreats. So it kind of felt natural to kind of turn my focus to men. But for most of my practice, I've worked with everyone. I would say of the 10 years I've been coaching, for the first 7, I mostly worked with women. And it's only the last 3 that it's become more men. But I would say the kind of person is actually still the same. The kind of person that I work with is A-type, driven. They're a leader or they want to be a leader, and they carry a lot of pressure or responsibility. They feel like it's their job to succeed, win, do more, do better. And often there's an impact of that. Maybe it's their relationships or their health or their happiness or their fulfillment, more time that they don't have with people that they love. And what people often do is they kind of ping pong between. So they'll be like, oh, I need to like spend more time with my family. But then my work is like going down because I'm not focused on that. And so working with them to show them that, hey, it doesn't have to be an either or. You can elevate both areas of your life at the same time. You're just going to have to shift the way you see things, the way you approach things, and then the way you take action. But it's possible to have a great family and a great business, to be healthy and to make money. It doesn't have to be like I'm overweight and fat and stressed out because I make a lot of money, or, you know, I work a lot, so I never get to see my family. That's just a limiting belief. And we have to teach and learn how we can have it all. And it takes practice. It's not, there's no flipping a switch and just getting it overnight.
Mm-hmm. And you bring such a good point, because that is a limiting belief for many people, for many men. They feel like they have to be a certain way because of what they do, and they don't always have the time for everything. But that isn't always the case, or that actually isn't true. They can change. So how is it like to work with you? Is there a certain program of a certain length? How is the engagement like typically? Is it one-on-one coaching, group coaching?
So it depends. There's like various ways to work with me. And something I think I'm unique in is I'll custom create things for clients. I think everybody's different and everybody needs different things. So typically when people get introduced to me, we have a discovery call or an introductory conversation, and I get to learn a lot about them, their life, their challenges, what they want, what they don't want that they have. They get to learn about me. And then I usually kind of share with them the vision that I see for them based on what's going on. So if somebody comes to me and they're doing really well in a lot of areas of their life, but they're stuck in one little thing, to me, sometimes that's like a Psych K experience. So Psych K is a subconscious reprogramming, a modality, and it's use it as, hey, if you have some trauma that you are kind of, it's like some trauma or some stress or sticky points, we can use some Psych K to give you some peace and clarity and relief in your life. And if you maybe have a limiting belief that's holding you back, we can use some Psych K for that. But I use Psych K kind of as like if we think about a house that we're remodeling, Psych K to me is like remodeling one room. We're putting the wallpaper, changing the furniture. And so that's like a very easy access point for people. They can do 1 session, 3 sessions. It's not a big, long commitment. And we can get to the root of some subconscious things or some stressful or traumatic things in their life. And then I think of if we expand out of that room in this metaphorical house and we look at the whole house, then I have like my one-on-one coaching where we're kind of transforming the whole house. Maybe we want to rebuild it or add another floor or expand it. And that's sort of like someone who really wants to grow their business or cultivate something or create something in their relationship or change something about themselves. That's more of a long-term engagement. We're going to work together for 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, maybe longer. I've had clients work with me for, I think my longest is 7 years. Every time we would hit a goal, we just created a new goal and we kept going forward. So those are kind of the 2 one-on-one options. If people are interested in doing things as a community or group, the options then kind of shift to the Alchemy of Men. So I kind of send them into, hey, come on a men's retreat. And, in community, you can get connection, community, learn about yourself, learn about more about your relationship to men, grow, heal, become more unreasonable, rise up. Like these are all things that I think are done really well in community, helping men find their way and not telling them what the way is, but helping them find their own way. And then also we do inside of Alchemy of Men, we do group coaching programs and some accelerators where we'll have, anywhere from 6 to 10 men kind of all working together on their own lives and their own projects. And then we're coaching them through those experiences.
And why is it called the Alchemy of Men?
So alchemy is like the idea that you're taking like iron or kind of basic metals and transforming them into gold.
Mm-hmm.
Alchemy in its essence is this idea of transforming something that is ordinary into extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had a vision of doing a retreat, I approached a guy I know named Bob, who's a coach, and he actually had a program called Alchemy of Men that was a coaching program. And we started talking about doing this retreat together, and we were like, what do we want to call it? And I said, dude, if you want to call it Alchemy of Men, or if we want to call it Alchemy of Men, I love the name.
Mm-hmm.
We can use your name if you're cool with using that. And he was, and it just fit. It just felt like, there's something about alchemy that feels a little magical. There's something that feels very concrete, like metals are concrete and solid.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, we don't think there's anything wrong with men. We're not fixing them, but we're taking what most of us are ordinary because that's all we've ever been trained to be. Supporting men to become what like the extraordinary men that we know they can be.
And how often are you doing these retreats typically?
We probably do between 3 and 5 retreats a year, just depending on like the, finding retreat locations and the demand. But for the last 3 years, we've done about at least 3 or more a year. And it seems like we're starting to do more because we're even having some demand from women that are saying they want to do the retreats. And we're going to do an Alchemy of Us retreat, which is our first retreat that has men and women, or really anybody can come, that we're leading with 2 pretty extraordinary women are going to be leading with us.
And how is it like to go through that experience? Is it like you go off for a few days, phones off, you're basically focused, you're learning all together, you're meditating? What is it like?
Yeah. So you're gone for usually about 4 days ish, depending on the retreat, away from your life. And people always say, why would you want to retreat? It's like running away from things. And it's like, no, we retreat away from our life so we can actually really focus on our life. That when we're in our typical life, we're often like very, very distracted. And there's so many distractions that we can't focus on improving, growing, fixing, transforming things. So this really gives us an opportunity to get clarity and get like hyper focused on what's in the way or what we want. And then our retreats are very like mind, body, spirit. We think it's important to encompass all of them. So we spend time, I wouldn't call it like meditation, but mindfulness exercises. We spend time doing physical like exercise that we combine play and competition into that. Most adults don't spend a lot of time playing. And for most adults, exercise is not fun. They like think they have to. So we kind of weave some play and some fun into the exercise. We do workshops on topics that are impacting our lives. So instead of just like taking you and saying, hey, let's get you angry and work on your anger, we create conversations around things like money and sex and relationships and communication and your business. And then with that, naturally, emotions and things arise. So we teach you things and we let things arise within you. And then we get to work on those things when they show up. So we're, the mind, the body, the spirit, cause at night we usually sit around a fire and we incorporate, I don't know how to say it great, but like we incorporate spirituality in a way that it like lets everybody participate and share their spirituality and take and connect more to like nature and animals and kind of the whole world altogether. It's a tough thing to just like explain that part. It's more of an experiential thing. But yeah, we cover all those gamuts and let people really almost like see their lives with fresh eyes.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense that you kind of like have to get out of life to kind of like get a better perspective of it and kind of like have to disconnect in a way. And what better way is to disconnect with other people who are trying to do the same thing versus like thinking about it, doing it alone. So where do people typically, and this is a question that is both for that research and also for other coaches who are listening, where do people typically find you? Is there a marketing channel that is working really well for you?
If I'm like very honest, the best marketing channel for me has been human to human, like consistent networking groups, BNI. I don't know if you're familiar with BNI, but Business Networking International. I've been in BNIs in different cities that I've lived in for like 7 years on and off. And BNI has constantly sent business owners in my direction. These are people that want to improve their business, that want more business, and being in the space with them has often led me to clients. I've always been on social media. It hasn't really been a great funnel for me. I've tried funnel programs and I've tried social media programs and I've tried VSL program. I feel like in 10 years, I've run the gamut of so many things. And there's a lot of people like promising get rich quick schemes. Hey, we're going to make you $1 million. We're going to make you 50,000 this month. And honestly, for me, none of those things have ever worked. They've all been money that I feel like I've wasted. Yeah, I learned some stuff, but I've never gotten a result. The only thing that's ever given me a result is going out into the world and being with people and just talking, connecting, offering free sessions so people can have an experience in my work and referrals. That's been the key. And, for 7 or 8 years of my 10-year run as a coach, I've had a 6-figure business. So it's worked, and most people don't like it because it's not sexy. Most people want to they want to get rich quick on the algorithm.
They want something fast, scalable within the next 2 to 3 months or something. Yeah, there's no such thing, but it's some people sometimes do get lucky.
Totally.
And use that as a way to say, oh, I did it but you just got lucky, but say that I have a way to do it consistently or something like that. So there's always these get rich quick schemes that are trying to sell you something. So yeah, I totally get that. And it has been a challenge actually for a lot of coaches when thinking about investments that they have made. And we'll talk about investments as well. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask you, when it comes to the future of your coaching business for the next 1 to 3 years, do you have any specific goals that you're working towards?
My biggest goals are really about building Alchemy of Men in that community, which I relate to as coaching and personal development community. But I just see so much opportunity in like bringing men together to heal and rise and live on reasonable lives. I think that to me, my coaching business is something that will like be a part. I want it to be a part of that. Like I actually want to have fewer clients that I really enjoy and be funneling more people into that world where I'm getting to work with people and coach people in those kind of in-person or live human interaction dynamics. So if you said, hey, what's your dream in the next 1 to 3 years? It's to grow the Alchemy of Men and have a large enough community so I can really give that my attention. And then I have a small practice of people that I really enjoy working with one-on-one. But yeah, that would be my ideal.
Right now, do you have, because I'm thinking since you're thinking growth consistently, right now, do you have kind of like a team that helps you out, or is it just you?
In my personal practice, it's just me. At different points, I've had contractors and things that have worked for me, but in Alchemy of Men, I have a partner, and then we have about 6 men that are part of our leadership team that are helping us grow.
Thinking about like your goals of further scaling, where do you see the challenge right now? What is the challenge for you that you're trying to solve for next, short term to midterm, maybe?
The challenge, I think the biggest challenge is there's 2 things. I think there's a lot of shitty coaches. If I meet or see one more coach posting online about how great their business is when I know they have no clients, my head's going to explode. But I see this all the time. I mean, I'm in Southern California. I'm surrounded. I feel like I'm in the mecca of personal development. And every day I meet coaches have never had a business, who don't have a business, and they're like lying online about how much money they make and how many people they've coached. And so I think that the biggest hurdle is that the market is saturated with a lot of like liars and garbage. A lot of people that are doing like this marketing thing. I don't know if I've seen this where I know somebody doesn't have, like I know someone personally, they don't have any clients, they're trying to build their business. And on their social media, on their website, they write like only 2 spots left in my next group. And right.
Scarcity, guys.
Yeah. And they do that. I've also seen people who are like, hey, we have, we've had 50 people commit for our next launch. And then I've talked to them and they'd be like, no one's actually committed. We're just trying to get people excited. I think like, unfortunately, I don't believe in these modalities. I'm like, tell the truth. But what I think that's happening is we've been doing this for so long, these like manipulative tactics, not just in coaching, but really like since social media has come online, that I think people are more wary and more scared and more adverse to certain things in industries. How people talk about like never buy clothes on Instagram because like what shows up at your house is not what you thought was in the ad. It's like some cheap brand. It doesn't fit the same. I think that's the same with coaching, personal development. A lot of that is we've pooped in the pool too many times and now nobody wants to get in the pool. And so it takes longer to establish trust and people have been burned and they're like afraid to invest money. So I think there's that. I think the other component is, the world is an unstable place right now. Like people don't know what's coming. They're afraid. There's a lot of scarcity. There's a lot of concern about economies and things. And I think when we get in those places, people, they like grab onto what they can and they kind of hoard. They either hoard to stay safe or they use their money on like entertainment things to make them feel good. And coaching is just not, coaching, personal development retreats are not something you need. They're something you want. Oh, they're really something extra that we believe in, that we want to invest in. And so I think like that's another part of, I think, where the industry is right now, where the world is.
Absolutely. Well, good news is that in your case, it's not a small market. So there's a lot of space for you to grow there. It's not like a very, very small niche either. So I feel like you're not going to run into that issue. But I totally get the part about like so many coaches. It's a growing industry, and many coaches that have come into my podcast, some of them have shared that same concern. There's coaches that will just change their cover image on LinkedIn and say, I'm a coach now, and they can, and there's no governance or there's no regulation around coaching. So that remains an issue. I don't know if that is ever going to be solved. There's always like these accreditations, certifications, but the clients, like the people, are not aware of them really. So only the ones who have had a coach before or had a couple of coaches kind of start to look for that coach that might have these certifications just to try it out. But yeah, there's no regulation. It's not a regulated industry, so that will continue to be an issue with the pool. Yeah. Now wanted to ask you, when it comes to, like, we touched a bit on this earlier, when it comes to the investments that you've made over time, what have been some investments that you're really proud of, that you feel good about, or you learned a lot, or you got a good return on that investment? And what have been some investments that you feel like you probably should have avoided and were not that good?
Well, I think the best investment I ever made in the coaching space or in my personal development was when I did accomplishment coaching in 2015. I mean, that program fundamentally transformed who I am as a human being and changed my life. You know, a lot of people do that program and they might not have coaching practice, but I would venture to say high majority of people that do that program, their life has changed. Now, if they take that and build a coaching program, great. Maybe not. For me, that was something I did. And without that program, I would not have been able to build a 6-figure business as quickly as I did. I would have totally floundered. So that's number one, you know, and then I think there's like lots of little things like, you know, my Psych K training was a new modality that was good for me to have like another modality, you know, going to some men's retreats. Like at the time I was starting mine to see what other people were doing and actually put myself through a gauntlet of what I was going to be putting people through. I think was a good thing. Going to like Joe Dispenza was like really great for, you know, my mind. I think a lot of these things were really good for me, like up leveling me. And I think if I'm better, then I'm a better coach and a better entrepreneur. You know, plant medicine retreats, right? Opening my mind, having my brain think differently, great investment. I think the things that I would say, if there are bad investments, they were the gimmicky, we're going to help you build a business faster investments.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say that it wasn't that I never feel like anybody like robbed me or I got like that, but I do feel like I tried some of these. Hey, we're going to build you a funnel. We're going to build you this like lead capture thing. We're going to build you this program to help you, you know, make 50K in 1 month. And I think to me, whenever somebody has promised like all this stuff very fast, it doesn't mean that their tools and their things were bad. I just think that just because somebody did it one time doesn't mean it's like always replicable.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it doesn't mean it's impossible. I'm not saying that, but you know, there's a reason everybody doesn't go viral all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be special if we were always going viral. It's like when we go viral, it's special. And I think when somebody figures out how to build a funnel and all of a sudden they have like a 8-figure business, that's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. But if you could just replicate that for 100 million times, it wouldn't be special.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that exists. That's just not how any business works, right? Like if you open up a hamburger place and it's amazing and I just try to copy you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily going to have an amazing restaurant, right? It doesn't work
Yeah.
like that. Well, anytime somebody was selling me I can like make you a bunch of money quickly,
Mm-hmm.
I would say those are the times I wish I could have my money back.
Yeah, nice. And it's been maybe not nice actually, because not a good investment, obviously. But for all the coaches who in a similar way are trying to scale their coaching business, what advice would you give to these coaches? Not just scaling their business, but actually scaling their impact. Is there any advice you'd give to these coaches?
The first advice I think is like you should have a coach. And I think like every coach should have a coach. But I think it shouldn't be about the coach that's like promising you, you know, bags of money and fortune.
Mm-hmm.
I think you really want a coach that simply challenges you, asks you tough questions, and forces you to grow as a person. If you do that, you'll make money. And I think people are choosing coaches that are good marketers. Oh, I got this new coach. Like, look what they built online. Great. You're probably not going to be able to build what they built,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have 2 million followers and all their followers are not building what they built, right? Like, so maybe sometimes it's like, you know, my coaches that I've always had were coaches that nobody really knew. They weren't famous online. They were successful, high 6-figure, maybe even 7-figure coaches, but it wasn't about glitz and glamour. It was about like getting in there and doing the work. So I think having a coach that forces you to grow and expand and challenge yourself is the key.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. I think the other thing is learning how to be you as a coach. And I think this is one of the tougher things is we're all trying to like copy and replicate what someone else is doing that we think is good. And I think it's great. Like, hey, success leaves clues. Let's like cherry pick some things. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us just aren't finding our authenticity in the space. So what is it that makes you and you special? And how do you bring that into your coaching? And I think that if you can find that, it gives you like a leg up because nobody can do you like you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for coming into our podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you, they can go into LinkedIn and look up Alex Terranova. They'll be able to find you there. They can also go into the website, alexterranovacoaching.com, which we'll put into the description. That's correct, right? Alex Terranova Coaching. Is there any other way people could connect with you?
Instagram, inspirational Alex.
And thank you so much, Alex. It was lovely having you on the show.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.